Please, what is that? Don't tell me. It's all in the Reflexes.
You're listening to All in the Reflexes, an unrepentant vivisection of geek news and culture.
It's all in the Reflexes.
With the comedy rock geek Mikey Mason, the Brack of all trades Jeb Brack, Madison Metricula Roberts, and tech guy Steve.
It's all in the Reflexes.
I know, there's a problem with your face.
Hi, welcome to All in the Reflexes. I am your host, Madison Metricula Roberts, joined by...
I'm Jeb Brack.
And this is Tech Guy Steve.
Well, we still have a few announcements at the top. I know we've been hitting both of these really hard. My home convention, Logicon, is going to be coming up on the 12th through 14th of January in Cary, North Carolina. But if Williamsburg, Virginia is closer to your neck of the woods, there's also MarsCon at the same time, the 12th through 14th of January in Williamsburg, Virginia. Both of them are excellent cons. If you come to a Logicon, you can see yours truly, and I believe MarsCon will feature Mikey Mason. So that's what I think we have going on officially. But
Yep.
And if you come to the Midwest, all you'll see is cold and snow, and so probably should go to the East.
Well, I don't know. It's a tiny personal hellscape here for me. I'm sure y'all will have more stories, but there's about 1.5 inches of snow around me, and I am I'm just beside myself. But a few weeks ago, we talked about the trailers for Ready Player One came out,
Sure.
and I had not read the book, so I did. So, true story. So ironically, that was one of the only paper books I read last year. I had like a physical copy, but I also didn't read books or novels by men last year, unless I personally knew them. Except I read Ready Player One on December 30th, and I had some like male gaze culture shock. Yeah, I won't go into much. It's not for me, and I recognize that. But call me if there's like an early 90s edition of a Ready Player One style book, because I will be like really hard there.
And how does Richard feel about this? Because I'm sure he's read it and enjoyed it.
He has not. He has not read it.
Well, then we need to get him sitting in for you to review Ready Player One.
I'm probably not going to go see the movie, so that might be a possibility. What about y'all? Who's got something going on?
Well, I am going to be seeing tons and tons of movies because I got a movie pass for Christmas. If you haven't heard of this thing, it's a subscription service. You pay $10 a month. They send you a special debit card, and then you install an app on your phone. And the idea is that for that $10 a month, you can go to a movie every day without paying extra for it. It's just the $10 a month. So I'm going to go see a lot of movies. I went and saw Loving Vincent is our first one. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but it is a period piece about that takes place just after the death of Vincent van Gogh. And there's a friend of his who is trying to return a letter that he wrote to Vincent's brother. And it's sort of a mystery movie about how Van Gogh died. But what makes it extraordinarily special is that it's an animated movie. Every single frame of the movie is an oil painting. And so every single frame, I'll have to put a link to the YouTube for the trailer because it is astonishing. It is remarkable. Every cell was an oil painting on canvas. And it is done in the style of Van Gogh's paintings. So it is a pretty good story, but it's just an incredible treat for the eyes. So
how long is the movie?
95 minutes. I think that comes out at 65,000 oil paintings.
That's unbelievable.
Done by a team of something like 120 artists. So it's pretty incredible. And that what they did was they shot live action sequences with the actors in costume, but then they painted paintings of each frame of the live performance.
It's kind of like a rotoscopy, but not
quite. Not painted on the film like rotoscoping. Right. This was using that film as reference for each painting. And then the characters in it are taken from some of Van Gogh's most famous paintings and then stitched together into this story that's, really, really pretty moving. But just visually alone, it is unbelievable. So if you haven't seen Loving Vincent, it's a pretty small release movie. I mean, they did not, it did not come out in, 10,000 screens or whatever, but it is terrific. It is so great. So
that sounds fantastic.
There you go. I'm gonna put the link in right now while I'm thinking about it. So Steve,
cool.
Steve, what's going on with you? Are you shut in the house?
The big news is that we got hit by a nor'easter. Unbelievable. I think our specific house had something like the official 9 inches of snow, but because we had 30-mile-an-hour winds, we had 2 and 3 foot snow drifts, and the plow keeps pushing it up. So at the end of the driveway was like a 4.5 foot tall, 6 foot wide berm, and all that snow had to be cleared out of the driveway, the sidewalks, the porch, so that I worked on it for about 3 hours today. With a neighbor, and luckily we have a little gas-powered snowblower.
Oh, excellent! Yeah,
which helped. But at some point we had overstrained it, and so I guess it's belt-driven, and the belt was just squeaking and slipping, and it wasn't actually moving any snow. So we had to power it down for a while so that it would cool down, so we could start using it again.
That's the Massachusetts I remember.
Yes.
So foreign to me. That is drifts, snow drifts.
Well, the drifts are one thing. It's the piles at the end of the driveway where the plows come by that are the worst because they compact it, plus they've mixed it with the slush from the snow melter that they put on the street.
Wet.
It's heavy, it's wet, or it's frozen. Oh, and you need like a chisel or a jackhammer to get through it. And then you get that done, the plows come by and fill it all back in. So,
they do it again.
Yep.
So the only really good part is this year my wife has a different car than she's had the last 5 years. And this one has all-wheel drive. So now officially both of us are driving an all-wheel drive vehicle, so that means there should be no problem getting out of the driveway. I mean, we still cleared it. But like you said, with that little berm at the end, instead of being stuck and having to push the car will just get right over that.
Yeah.
But the whole state was pretty much shut down today. All work, all schools, everything, so that the city workers get out there and clear it. And a lot of the schools and stuff will still be closed tomorrow. And then all the usual foolishness where they emptied grocery stores, all bread, all the milk, all the eggs,
all the toilet paper.
Gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, maybe on Problem with Your Face, I'll tell you about my first snowstorm in Massachusetts. Steve, I think you probably heard the story, but it is...
It'll be new to me. This will be good.
Oh, it's brutal. So, so I don't miss that.
Well, while we have thoughts of snow in our heads, why don't we move on to the news?
And now for some more bad news. Ready?
There's very sad news if you're a follower of Fear the Boot, which Jeb and I, both of us are. One of the podcasters named Pat Roper passed away. He's only 43 years old. He's survived by a wife and 2 kids. We'll put a link to the obituary. And the Fear the Boot podcast put a very nice, 9-minute episode up talking about his life and telling some good stories about, happier times. And so, of course, the Roper family will be in our thoughts. I've got to meet him at Fear the Boot. So let's put it. So Fear the Boot has a convention every year called Fear the Con. And traditionally what happened is before the convention, if you show up to St. Louis a couple days in advance, members of the community would take you around to do the tourist stuff. And so I did that one year. I showed up before the convention and I got to see the arch and the these caves that you could go inside of and some other cool stuff. And the person who was...
they have caves?
Yes, yep. And so the person who took us around, because they kind of split up the duties, so I got to go in Pat's group. And so I got to spend an entire day with Pat and other Fear the Boot listeners while we kind of enjoyed the sights of the St. Louis area. And that was the time I really got to spend a little bit of time with Pat, a few years ago.
Yeah, I too got to hang out with him at Fear the Con and game with him a little bit. And he was a really smart guy and a funny guy, an incredibly dirty guy. If you're going to listen to the Fear the Boot thing, just know that it's pure Pat talking about very fringe kinds of things that it's not safe for work. But he was a really funny guy. So he's going to be missed, and our heart goes out to his family and to the Fear the Boot community.
In other news, a little bit back to the weather here in Boston. It's a type of bomb cyclone. They give it a weird name like bombogenesis. I don't know what. So we have the link to the article that explains it. But in part, it's driving the tides up because the wind pushes the water above its normal high level. So at high tides, they were cresting at almost 100-year records. This is like higher than on record since 1921. It breached the seawall. It flooded part of downtown Boston. It flooded a lot of waterside communities like Situate and Sandwich. And so they were out there rescuing people from their houses and their cars by boat.
Oh, God.
Wow.
And all that was happening today during the blizzard. So, while we had almost a foot of snowfall, people were being rescued on these floating, inflatable boats.
Oh.
It was quite crazy.
Yeah.
Really crazy day here.
No.
Man.
Just nasty. This has been a pretty harsh winter so far, and it's just now January. Hooray!
Oh, no. No.
Oh, man. About the only thing worse would be drinking unfiltered water, But, wait, hang on. Here's a story that we have, that the demand for unfiltered water in California is going through the roof because tech industry insiders have developed a taste for water that hasn't been treated. So you two can get
unbelievable.
We're all going to die.
Well, I mean, hopefully it'll take those people who are dumb enough to drink unfiltered, untreated, unsterilized spring water. But what I'm seeing here is that in San Francisco, this stuff is selling for a 2.5-gallon jug now, as much as $61 for a 2.5-gallon jug of water.
This isn't the Onion.
I thought that mankind had turned the corner, that we were all, just had reached the pinnacle of stupid when I saw an ad for Dasani Air, which was a bottle of air with a little mask on the top that you breathe in. I saw this in New York. But this is even dumber. I mean, okay, air, but you're paying for air. That's a certain kind of stupid. But here you are paying to get poisoned, potentially.
Yeah, potentially sickened. And this will be really cool, all the people who are, nature's good and everything is wonderful.
All right.
Until the first case of, I don't know what.
E. coli.
Listeria or cholera. Or...
That's right. Oh, man.
I just can't. I hate to say I can't even, but it's just so like, I don't know. There's a lot happening.
Yeah. So there we go. So let us turn our attention to something that is actually one of mankind's greatest creations. And that, of course, is the cartoon show Animaniacs.
I love that show, man.
I mean, I was like in elementary school when it was airing, so I was like,
what are we going to do tonight, Brain?
Yeah.
No.
Try to take over.
Wasn't that put Steven Spielberg? Didn't he make that?
He did.
Mm-hmm.
He did.
He was Amblin, yeah.
Yep, exactly right. Well, they are rebooting it. Hulu has ordered 2 new seasons of Animaniacs. I mean, I have all the Animaniacs on DVD, but there's a couple of years before this is coming out. But Yakko, Wacko, and Dot, Pinky and the Brain, all that stuff. Oh man.
Will it be as good?
Well, probably not, at least as far as us, as we remember it, as, they ruined my childhood. But then we can report on that too.
as true nerds.
That's exactly right. If you ever want to see something really cool, watch Rob Paulson, who voiced Yakko, doing the Nations of the World song live. He does that at conventions all the time. He sings the whole song from memory. That's
amazing.
It's pretty incredible. He's pretty great.
Well, speaking of streaming, did you either one of you watch Bright? It's the movie on Netflix.
Yes.
I did not.
Did you like it, Jeb?
I did like it. It wasn't perfect. There was a lot of problems with it, but it was a really good effort, and better than a lot of the movies that are in theaters, in my opinion.
Yeah. I really liked it. I don't know why. Again, maybe I'm getting old. I sat down and thoroughly enjoyed it. My wife watched it. She thought it was okay. I like the world building. I like the kind of stuff it implied about the way the world worked.
Yep.
And they definitely left it open for a sequel. And so the news is that Netflix has officially okayed a sequel, except that the writer, Max Landis, won't be attached to the project anymore. So some people, for whatever the critics saying it's a terrible movie, a lot of people are complaining that it was a terrible movie. I don't agree. I've seen terrible movies. This is not one of them. I'm not going to say it was great, but it definitely doesn't fit as terrible. But,
no.
So some people are actually happy that the writer won't be there. Maybe they think it'll get better.
That's not typically the way Hollywood goes.
No, yeah, exactly.
I admire your optimism.
They said Will Smith, Joel Edgerton, and the director David Ayer are still attached to the project.
Good.
They're just replacing the writer. And I don't know what to say. To me, it felt like Lord of the Rings, unofficially, but Lord of the Rings universe. It happened. They defeat Sauron, and then 2,000 years pass, and these are the consequences.
Right.
Because they make comments like that are very kind of, I don't know, that totally tickled me pink. I thought it was a really well done movie.
Well, if that's, I noticed that too, and what I want to know is, what is Jesus still a big deal in this world? Because obviously we've got magic that can resurrect people. So is it really that big of a deal if Jesus came back from the dead?
I don't think they really mentioned religion at all.
No.
I didn't see anything in there about Christianity or any other religion.
Right.
Just that creepy
Sounds like somebody needs to write some fanfic.
Yeah. I also thought that the makeup for the orcs was really well done.
I thought it was very convincing, yeah.
It did look good, just from watching like trailers for it and stuff. I was like, it doesn't look cheesy,
No, it looked like real skin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now one of my kids both liked it. My wife liked it. But one of my kids has been looking online at some of the criticism behind it. And evidently there are some people who are unhappy with how they used orcs to kind of comment on African-American culture. Yeah. That is cultural appropriation and just mapping the bad stuff about black people onto orcs. And my point is, well, duh, because they're trying to comment on today's world by showing something kind of absurd and out of our experience, but we still have the same problems. And so I thought that was also part of the point.
A long history in science fiction,
yes,
less so fantasy, but definitely science fiction, where that's exactly what you do.
Yeah,
they barely change anything except for whatever it's mapped onto.
That's right.
Yeah, so
it's not
cautiously optimistic. But...
Yep, definitely. So give Bright a watch if you haven't. I think it's worth your watch.
Well, speaking of more stuff on streaming services, Spotify is in a bit of trouble to the tune of $1.6 billion for using songs on its platform without a license.
Oh my goodness.
I know. Very, very naughty. So Spotify works by paying out royalties per play or mostly completed play by these different artists.
Sure.
And apparently they do all of their song licensing through Harry Fox Agency. But in the cases where Harry Fox Agency may not have the correct records, it's up to the agency or Spotify to seek the actual copyright. But
I see.
Yeah, it's a lot. But the big songs were some of the ones that are involved in the suit. Hits by Tom Petty, like Free Fallin', the recently deceased Tom Petty, and Light My Fire by The Doors. Some of these are big name artist songs that Spotify has been streaming and doesn't actually have the rights to use.
But wasn't Spotify actually praised for passing along royalties to smaller artists better than Pandora does.
Yes.
I seem to recall that Pandora took a lot of flack that, that artists preferred to be on Spotify than on Pandora just because they get better returns from it. So this is pretty disappointing.
I was seeing this. This is not the first time they've been sued. Apparently there's contention going back, I don't know, a couple years now, and they end up settling. So they get these giant lawsuits because it's a per infraction, suit, but then they end up settling for $40 million or whatever until they true up and come to an agreement. They also said Spotify is moving to be a publicly offered company, and so a lot of this stuff is people suing them right before they go and do their public offering. I don't know why, but.
It seems like a good time, I guess. I don't know. So I compared a bunch of different streaming services based on, like, as someone who puts music out, like, on what they pay artists. And Spotify is one of the lowest paying ones, but it makes up for that in volume.
Okay.
I think that Apple Music pays the most, followed by Google Music, and then Spotify was kind of at the bottom of those. But I mean, they're all kind of, again, there's advantages and disadvantages to all of them, but it's just it's a model that's good and bad in so many ways. But this, like, having like major label hits that they're trying to play unlicensed, it's like that's a ticking time bomb.
Yes, because those guys got no sense of humor at all.
Nope.
They're gonna come find you, man.
Well, I'll tell you who does have a sense of humor: Ringo Starr.
Yay!
That's Sir Ringo Starr. He's been knighted along with 3 other Britons,
including
Barry Gibb from the Bee Gees.
Stay in the night, stay in the night.
Those are the only ones, kind of performers mentioned in this article. 4 of them were knighted. I think it's going to be made public on Saturday, as of our recording. It's always cool that they get recognition for an entire lifetime of a work and achievement. It's still kind of a cool throwback to a kind of a medieval custom. I don't know. I like it. There was a funny Reddit discussion about, again, like fan fiction. Somebody was saying that there should be a story in which aliens attack England and the Queen has to activate all of the performers that she's knighted so that you have Sir Elton John and Sir Patrick Stewart leading brigades against the
Sir Paul McCartney.
Because the official name is
one thing I would watch.
Kind of like a Knight Defender of the kingdom is the title, and so I just thought that was cute. Here she's been making all these knights, secretly needing them,
That's awesome.
So,
well, talking about special upcoming events, the moon is about to do something that it hasn't done in more than 150 years.
Explode.
Well, I mean, it'll explode our minds, right?
Right.
There's going to be 3 separate celestial events on January 31st. So we're looking at a blue moon, which I think is the second full moon in a month, a red moon, which I'm actually not sure what that is. I was like, I tried to like memorize all of these before, but and then a purple moon.
Well, because you combine a blue and a red, yeah,
is has something to do with a lunar eclipse. So, and it calls it. Man, I've really botched this. This is great. The moon's going to be really cool on the night of January 31st. It's an astronomical rarity according to space.com, which is the website I am not looking at.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be so okay. So okay, when the moon is full for a second time in a month, that is a blue moon. Okay?
Sure.
A super moon, which was visible on New Year's Day, is a term for when a full moon is closest to the Earth in its orbit. Okay, so that's when it looks really big.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which
then,
it did look amazing.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
It's very cool. And then I see. I'm getting all these terms confused because there's lots of colloquial terms. And then the third thing is a total lunar eclipse. So we've got a supermoon where it's really close to the Earth. We've got a blue moon, which is the second full moon in a month, and a lunar eclipse, which will be visible from I think New Zealand and Australia, but not from the US. but these things will converge. So I saved it. I saved it, y'all. I saved the moon.
I think some people call the eclipse a blood moon because the moon looks dark. And so they're running them all together, and you're going to get a super blue blood moon. Now, if that doesn't trigger some kind of magical confluence.
I can't wait to cast some good hexes.
Exactly.
Well, before we finish up with the news, we really ought to just touch base with everybody's scrappy little underdog of a movie, Star Wars: The Last Jedi. To the surprise of no one, it should come as to surprises no one, it has hit $1 billion worldwide as of this week, just 3 weeks after its release. So, I know that all you haters out there really wanted to take this sucker down, but sorry, the power of the Force compels you. So
yes,
crying over billions of dollars of money in licensing.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. I also think that the haters should go watch it one more time out of spite.
That's right.
I hate
buy
this
lots
so
of
much. Copies of all the books to burn. And...
I hate this so much. I'm going to sit through it again just to hate it. Oh,
well,
man.
With that on our plates, do we have any trailers to talk about?
This will make for one epic trailer.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but A Wrinkle in Time was a book that somehow missed me as a kid.
I read it. I liked it.
I have read it, and it was, decent YA material, but it was not part of my formative years the way it was for, like, my brothers. So, what about you guys? Was it big in did it loom large in your development?
Yes, I read it when I was in probably middle school, and I read all 5 of the books in that series, and actually reread them 1 or 2 years ago.
There were 5?
Yeah, there was A Wrinkle in Time, Many Waters, Wind in the Door, and
Swiftly Tilting Planet.
Tilting, and then the last one was the time travel one about like Meg's granddaughter or daughter. I can't remember.
Now I'm wondering if I did read them all, because I remember them for some reason being a trilogy.
Yeah, that's the way I recall it too. But I think
I better go look that up. I wonder if I missed 2 of the books.
A couple others came out later.
2 of them were written much later.
Yeah,
so
maybe that's what happened.
Don't feel
I didn't
bad.
catch the last 2.
But Many Waters had a lot of like sex stuff in it that was super formative to me as a young person. There was like a girl that was like, but I love both of you brothers. How about we all just get along together? Wink, wink. And I was like, yeah,
let's
there
do
we
that.
Go.
Well,
but that's a different book. That's but Wrinkle in Time.
Yeah,
by Madeline L'Engle.
Yeah, there was a trailer for it in front of Star Wars, was there not?
Mm-hmm.
And so I saw that, and since it was not a big formative experience for me, I looked at it with a more critical eye and said, that does not look good to me.
Oh.
I was
jazzed to see it, man.
I was excited to see the trailer, but I'll let you finish. I'm sorry.
I watched the trailer months and months ago. I've been keeping track of this. It comes out March. That's a lot of the best movies come out my birth month. I'm just going to pretend like it's for my benefit.
For you.
There was a movie made for TV before, and I actually like it. It's a little cheaper special effects. But there's something very special about the story. I can't explain why. I just like it. And so even the made-for-TV movie was decent. You can find it online, I'm sure. And this one looks like a much bigger, amped-up... I'm excited to see it. I'm definitely going to go watch it. So
yeah, the things that... one, I was very interested. I really like the girl that's playing Meg, the lead in that. I was not as excited about the trailer because it almost seemed too funny.
Yeah,
or like they were trying to lighten it up because it's a very heavy.
It
story.
did seem pretty goofy with the costumes and the sets and everything like that. And then Zach Galifianakis is not known for his intense dramatic roles, so that kind of put me off a little bit.
But I mean, people have said that about like Will Ferrell or Jim Carrey too, and they can do excellent dramatic work. I'm going to go see it. It might be one of those cases where a lot of times the studio markets the movie they wish you made and not necessarily the movie that you made. But I'm stoked. I'm down.
Me too. It has a killer cast. Chris Pine plays the father, which also means he's probably barely in the movie. Spoilers, he's not in the movie that long. Reese Witherspoon, Oprah Winfrey, Mindy Kaling, again, Zach Galifianakis, and others. Killer trailer, much better special effects, crazy costumes, a more diverse cast, especially for the family that's going on the adventure. It ticks it. I love so much of that book. It's usually billed as science fiction, and it's kind of science fiction, but it has a lot of magical and religious overtones.
Yeah.
So it's not really traditional science fiction, and they
I
deal with
agree.
angels and souls and stuff.
Sure.
It's really cool. And how about that iconic scene in the trailer of the kids with the basketballs in the suburban cul-de-sac? That was great.
Conformity.
Really good.
That was pretty creepy. I'll grant you that. So
it has one of my favorite descriptions ever of a cherub. It's near the beginning of the book. A cherub comes to visit the children, and it's this ball of fire and smoke full of wings and eyes. And the kids are terrified. and then somebody explains, well, that's a cherub. And then you go look up the description of cherubs, and like it's not the little cute. We've discussed this on the podcast before.
Fat baby.
Yeah, it's not a fat baby with a bow and arrow. That's actually a putti, P-U-T-I, a totally different type of caricature made from medieval art. It was just, I love that description. It stuck with me for decades. Specifically, that description of a cherub from that book.
Well, there you go.
That is awesome. I am excited to look ahead to something, but perhaps we could look back to something. Do we have any overdue reviews?
This is your review? Well, you're late.
Well, I gotta say that I kind of fell down on my homework this week. I didn't watch any old movies. I was reading a lot, and so I got nothing.
Were you naughty, Jeb? You very naughty?
Steve, help me out here, man. Did you watch anything old besides anime? Come on.
I did. It's not that old. 2015. But there is a movie on Netflix called Black Way. It was produced and stars Anthony Hopkins, based on a book with the same title. It also stars Julia Stiles and Ray Liotta. It's got a good premise. It's got a great cast. It is not a great movie. I could not honestly recommend it because it's very repetitive. It's this guy named Black Way, played by Ray Liotta, is vicious, crazy, and violent. He begins by...
Does Ray Liotta have that in his range? I don't know.
I know, it's crazy. Like, literally, he's been typecast as that. So he's harassing this woman who just got to this very, very little logging town somewhere in Washington State, played by Julia Stiles. He harasses her pretty creepy. I mean, turned it up to 11. And nobody will help her. The sheriff won't, and the sheriff sends her to this logging camp and say, well, somebody over there knows him, and they'll go have a talk with him. And all these men were just like, oh, him? No, wouldn't it be easier if you just sold the property and moved out of the state?
Here.
And literally, like, nobody wants to deal with this violent SOB. And so the movie's repetitive. Like, the whole first portion is going from person to person looking for him. And, I mean, Anthony Hopkins and another character volunteer to help her. And they have their own reasons why they're going to help her. But it's going from person to person saying, do you know where he is? And having that person tell a story about why he scared the bejesus out of him because he's violent, crazy, and, lethal. And then, of course, there's the resolution. So there's not really any kind of twist or suspense. It's kind of repetitive. It's very linear. And I guess what surprised me about that is Anthony Hopkins, like I said, produced it. And so usually when an actor produces a movie that they star in, it's because something about that character really appealed to them and they wanted to portray that character.
Yeah.
But I was utterly impressed with that character. Like, I don't know what he was doing with that character or what he wanted to do.
What did he see in him?
That's what I'm saying. Like, maybe there was some, depth to the performance I just didn't catch. But it didn't impress me. And I'm like, if you're going to put your name behind it and put your money behind it, I would have assumed you would have do something better than this. So it's okay. It's an okay movie. It's about 95 minutes. And if you have some time, it's on Netflix, but not as cool as the premise kind of sets it up.
All right, so watch Bright instead.
Yes, watch Bright instead.
Watch Bright. Well, you watched a movie that came out a few years ago, and I might have a game that came out a few years ago.
Big fun.
Small price.
So I played a lot of Pixel Junk Monsters this week. It's actually a tower defense game, but what's really cool about it is it has couch and online co-op, which a lot of the games that we talk about on here are usually single player.
So what's couch? Does that mean someone in the room with you physically?
Yes, a physical person in the room with you, which is like a meat space co-op. Very exciting in the world of online gaming, like an actual 2-player game, cooperative.
Cool.
So brief stats. This actually came out in 2008, originally for the PS3, but they've ported it to PS4, Vita, and Steam. So PC, Mac, and Linux. The gameplay is pretty straightforward. It's a tower defense game, so usually you have a base that you have to defend, and a line of little creeping monsters or some other kind of attacker will weave its way around a board to get to your base. So you build little turrets, towers, such as it is, to defend them, and so you just start sniping them off as they go through certain choke points on your little map. This is a really, really gentle version of that. You play like a little turtle tiki monster, kind of, and you run around and you build your little towers and protect your little flock of friends. And it has a really cool soundtrack. It's very soothing, but and I like to play it by myself, but its strength lies in the fact that it's 2-player. And you can play it with a keyboard with 2 people or with controllers on a console or your PC, which is really, really a nice feature. So what I like about it is that it has a really good balance of strategy elements versus like Madcap Scramble, which is so good for multiplayer games. So it's good for kids and families, which is nice, instead of like a lot of the games I play that have accidental boobs in them. But I have played, Richard and I have played this together, and it's fun, and you have to like, no, you go there and build that tower, and I'll go build this one. And there's the way you upgrade the towers to hit harder is by dancing on top of them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it has like a little ticker, and the monsters, when you kill them, they go, eh. Like they just make cute little like.
And are in the screenshot you've got here, are they the porgs? With the green bars over their heads? Yeah, basically the little porg-looking things are the little monsters, and sometimes they try to get through your defenses by tying little balloons to themselves so that they can sneak by. So you have to build little arrow towers.
That is
to, like,
so cute.
Pick them off. I highly recommend it. It's $10, but it has really good replay value. You can play it alone or with a friend, and have like cooperative campaigns, and you can play. I know at least for the Steam version, you can play co-op online as well. So if your friend isn't in the room with you, you can still play together. So that is Pixel Junk Monsters. Very cute. So that's what I've been playing. Steve, are you watching any weird anime?
Steve はとってもくだらない人でアニメを見るんです。What weird anime is Steve watching this week?
It's not technically anime, but Troll Hunter on Netflix came out with a 2nd season, and it's animated. I didn't think they were going to, because the main character is voiced by Anton Yelchin, the young man who died tragically when he was pinned by his car. He was also, I think, Chekhov on Star Trek, the 2009 reboot. And so I thought that was it. They were either going to have to recast him, and he's the lead in the series, or they were going to just drop the series. But to my surprise, neither one. He had apparently already recorded 13 episodes worth of audio.
Oh, wow.
So it took a while, but they released season 2, and that's what I just finished watching. It's literally half the length of season 1. Season 1 was 26 episodes, which is unusually long. This one was only 13, and it definitely ends on a cliffhanger, so they could come back. But of course, at this point, my understanding is that they've used up the audio that Anton recorded. It's beautifully animated. It's a DreamWorks production, so that's not Pixar, but DreamWorks is still pretty good. They use computer graphics. It's beautiful, vivid, bright, very interesting. The storyline's a lot of fun with secret trolls living beneath the city and kind of a troll war, and his friends in high school are helping him. And I can recommend it as family safe and pretty interesting story. So if you go to watch all, both seasons, it's like 39 episodes. So it's quite a lot to watch. Again, it's called Troll Hunter, available on Netflix.
That's awesome. I watched the first few episodes and really enjoyed it. But I just never, you know how stuff just happens and you don't go back and finish things. So
it doesn't. If it doesn't grab you, it doesn't grab you.
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps us up. Gentlemen, where can they find us online? Steve.
AITRpodcast.com. You get links to all the media we mentioned, including the video games that Madison reviews, plus links to our social media like Twitter and Facebook, and Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you get twice the content. And like last episode, the extra content was twice as long as the main show. We had quite a bit to say about Star Wars The Last Jedi.
Yes, we did.
Well, if you are interested in that content, you can follow us over to There's a Problem with Your Face. But for now, I have been your host, Madison Matricula Roberts, with...
I'm Jeb Brack.
And this was Tech Guy Steve.